There, both need for Shlema. So this time
I'm
talking, so I'll say my name, my father's name first, Shmuel Deva Kain Ben Chana Miriam, and Jonathan.
Sarah Bas Hada.
Sarah Bas
Hada.
And Martin also.
Gezellig Ben Rachel. Ben Rachel. Chaim Shebezroa. For Chaim Shebezroa. Chaim Shebezroa.
Yeah, also Hannah Chaya, Bas Rivka Mikla, Sarah Bas Leah, Adi Bas Rivka, Judas Chana Bas Elsa, Devorah Leah Bas Celia, Anita Bas Miriam. And while that, I just want to mention my father Nachman Levi, Levi, and Rafi, really with the Rafi is Raful Ben.
It probably says it here somewhere.
Is it Shloshim?
Shloshim is next week.
It'll be Purim.
No, Purim.
Purim Mamish?
Yeah, he passed away on Purim. That's around Purim culture. And 2 weeks before, you know what I heard? 2 weeks before, he told us, he knew he was going to pass away. They were conscious of that fact that he wasn't going to live a long life.
Yeah, but they didn't know.
Right, okay, fine. But I'm saying, 2 weeks before he passed away, he told his family that, when he passed away, he wants to be like Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, a happy thing. It doesn't want to be sad. He passed away on Purim Cotton. Every year it's going to be his Gertzeit on Purim. Besides on the leap year, it's going to be Purim.
This is Rabbi Ginsburg Purim Cotton.
You understand?
He said Rabbi Ginsburg about Purim Cotton. He says exactly what they say about when they bring in a cotton.
Yeah.
By a bris.
The cotton gadol year. I just want to say this is not information to be processed. I won't say it with any names. You won't know. But there's one person that was on a very sad. It was on a bunch of Lubavitch websites. They told a very sad story. Whatever. I'll cut all details out because it's. But he had surgery today and everything was benign. So Baruch Hashem. No, not in our community. The Chabad community. But he had surgery today. I hear that's what the early reports were, that everything was benign. So since of course, when you see it on COL or something, then we could. I'm not gonna. It's not my job to say anything. So I'm not. It should be. No, I don't know who it is beyond that level. I just know people that know and they're very connected to that family. So I was told this, but it's not. It's not official information. I'm not gonna, but this is good news, right? This is a good thing. This is a good thing.
Can I ask you a question? How come when you do a Mishnah Dera, you mention the mother's name, not the father's name?
Beats me, and after a person passed away, you mention the father's name, not the mother's name.
I understand.
Except when you pulled up to the
Torah. Why? So you're playing things. I don't understand.
There must be a reason. I know there's a reason. But I don't know why.
Person's Yiddishkeit comes from the mother, right? It's all Yiddishkeit from the mother. Because the father's, if the mother's not Jewish, and the father's a Yid, he's not Jewish.
Well, that's true.
So why do you go to the Torah by the father's name?
It identifies you.
Well,
I guess the Torah.
good chance you're a Yid if you come to the Thurs.
Go up to the Torah based on the father.
Well, yeah.
So maybe
If somebody's father is not Jewish, they call him
Women
by
are
the father's
usually
name.
snewless.
They say Abraham, don't they?
That's right.
Could you pass the herring? Let me see. I want to see the herrings first. Could you
I like the way you worded this. I like the way you worded this message. Potential for some choshev out of time
I can eat in this position.
I can
Without getting it all over me.
Yeah, maybe. Everybody got Pass como suena. Pass como suena.
You can't always make a head. No, do the right thing.
Okay, Rabbi Marmerstein.
Trust me, I'm a teacher right now.
Marmerstein.
No. What you're doing is essentially
What's
just trying to
play
the Musi. I'm just trying to give you a
No, I know.
Shabbos played the jazz.
like.
Who played it?
The video upstairs.
No, you can do exactly. But ask her.
I'm gonna tell you, I'll share it when we're in here. Guys, I want to share the story of our Rebbe that a few of us heard, because we saw the video, much of Shabbos. He doesn't see it, so I know one person can hear it. Hi, you saw it. You saw it too, the Matzah Shabbos?
The Australia.
But we knew
They played Matzah Shabbos?
before from Rabbi
They show it downstairs now.
No, everyone goes out.
Stuck into the dike.
Oh, yeah, so you heard the story.
I didn't hear it.
It's an unbelievable story. Really, if I wouldn't see it from the guy that happened himself, it's just a remarkable story. We hear stories about the Baal Shem Tov, and they say many stories of the Baal Shem Tov. Are they all true? So they say, you're a fool if you believe that they're all true. You're a fool if you believe that they can't be true. There's a lot of them are true, and definitely could be. But definitely, like it could be. So listen to the story, it's unbelievable. His name is Pinchas Woolstone, right? He's from Melbourne, Australia, and he's being interviewed on Gem. Tells him, I think the year was 1985, and he was in New York, he was going to go into Yechidus, and somebody, a family from Borough Park, Sibush family, not Lubavitch, I think they're Bobov, they went to him, they said, you're from Australia, we have a terrible situation in the family, they have a daughter, got married very young, the marriage didn't work out, she wanted a divorce, the husband wasn't giving her a divorce, she got very upset, and she rebelled against everything, the Yiddishkeit, and she took off, she's in Australia, please help us find her. So he says to her, Australia is like as large as Canada, right?
Yeah, United States.
I don't know, okay, United States? It's like, how would I find her? That's okay, So I'm going to the Rebbe for Yechidus, and I'll write it down on my zettel, my note to the Rebbe. He goes into Yechidus to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe's with a note, doesn't comment at all about this girl or anything. Yechidus is finishing up, and just says to him before he leaves, would be an idea if you could go to Brisbane, right? So he said Brisbane, it's like, 2-hour flight from Melbourne. And he asked the Rebbe, why? Like for what purpose? And the actual question, the Rebbe doesn't answer him. Doesn't say anything, huh?
I think he mentioned to the Rebbe about this girl.
Yes, he says that he wrote in the zettel, so the Rebbe read it, but he didn't comment about the girl. And he's just, the Rebbe...
He doesn't have a lot of information. He's going on very little information.
The Rebbe just tells him that it was right. Fine. He didn't connect it to the girl necessarily. He said to go, because the Rebbe didn't comment on that. Gets to Melbourne. Doesn't know if he goes immediately, but he books a ticket to Brisbane. He's on a plane on the way to Brisbane. So he's sitting next to a lady, and the lady is dressed very fancy, and she turns out she's from a very wealthy family. Family owns a chain store of dress stores in Australia. And she says, do you mind your
Greek
rabbi?
lady. She was a Greek.
Lady sitting beside Greek Orthodox, he says, yeah. So the lady says, Rabbi, you might ask some questions. She asks some questions about the Bible, philosophy, and then they started talking. She says, what a question for you. If somebody in your community leaves, the faith, so to speak. And they want to come back. Are they accepted back? He said, yeah, they're accepted with open arms. She says, because, there's a girl that works for one of our stores, and she says the town, anybody remember the town? Far, like way out, like a nothing a town.
Thurs, I think.
Yeah, it could be, like,
Thurs,
no
Thurs,
union.
Good.
And,
I saw it twice.
and she says, she tells me she's happy, but she does not seem happy to me. He hears the story and starts shaking, like it's unbelievable. Maybe this is the girl. Later on, it's that one here, Jewish girl, right away. He tells her the story. He says, I'm coming from right now the greatest rabbi in the world. His headquarters is in New York, and he tells her the story that it's important to go to Brisbane for no other purpose. Just go. So she starts shaking. So she gives them the address of the store, the girl's name. It's her. Comes to the store. He says she wasn't there at the time. He goes out. She's going to give her back 5. She comes back later. When she comes back an hour later, and he says she sees him, and she doesn't know what to start telling her. He says he has to talk to her. Tells her he's a Lubavitcher, the Rebbe sent him, whatever. She's pretty not that receptive, and she says to him, "Look, I'm working right now. I really have nothing to talk to you about. All I can tell you is that if you want to help me with my get, fine. Otherwise, I have nothing to talk with you." So we'll talk. So he comes back after 5 o'clock. The workday's finished. He speaks to her. He says, "I'll try to help you." So he gets in touch with her parents. Gets in touch with her, and they arrange for her to get a get. She comes to New York, she gets the get, and she's still didn't come back to her Yiddishkeit, and she goes to university, and she's taking courses. It says 2 years later, she goes to a certain college, and there's a Chabad house there, it's a shliach, and she starts going for Shabbos meals, and she becomes a Baal Tshuva, she becomes frum. She gets married. She marries a Lubavitcher, and he says, and stuff. She's got 6 children today. I think he said she was beautiful. That's an unbelievable story, and it's you hear it from the person. It's like
involved.
You're right, directly involved, and it's you read these stories of the Baal Shem Tov where he goes on the horse and the wagon just takes him. The horses take them wherever to accomplish something. It's exactly what happened.
But the Rebbe is the Baal Shem Tov. I mean, if not him, then who? I'll tell you. Today there was 2 Breslover Hasidim that davened with us here, and they came and have a lunch here for people from out of town and some locals. And they came and they told us a story. They're Talmidim of Rabbi Schick. Rabbi Schick is one of the rabbis in Breslov today, and a very powerful rabbi. And he was saying that he had 4 or 5 heart attacks. He went in for surgery, and this is what he told this whole kahila. He said that the Rebbe came into the operating theater, and he told him, he tried to calm him, and he said,
"Which Rebbe?
This is Lubavitch."
Oh, because he said it's a Breslov.
That's right.
But he had a dream about the Lubavitch Rebbe.
No, he didn't have a dream. He went in for surgery.
Yeah.
He said the Rebbe came into the operating theater, and he reassured him.
Is it recently? When did this happen?
Let me tell the story. There's no shilas on a mice, as they say, but I'll do the best I can with what information I have, and we do have it on video.
It's official.
The Rebbe said that that he would hold his hand for the entire operation, and he did. So this is
When was the operation?
I don't. Everybody asks me the date. To me, the date is less relevant than the fact of what the
My question is it post Gimel Tammuz or before? Like if
Post. It was post.
I don't think if you really look at the Rebbe's time schedule, he couldn't have done it before Gimel Tammuz.
It had to be supposed to be.
It had to be then.
It had to be. Yeah.
That's it.
You're right. So how come you said it's not a dream?
It wasn't a
You
dream.
can see it as a dream. You saw it, that's why you felt it.
He
Was it
may
Eretz
see
Yisrael?
he may see
You're
things.
skeptic, huh?
He may see. He may see things that.
Not skeptic, just realist.
He was on, they gave him, whatchamacallit.
Yeah, a little bit of morphine.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Help him to see better. A lot of times we don't really see what's really going on.
This is an unbelievable story. It's just,
But you know something, but the truth is, it's unbelievable if you look at the Rebbe, you know, beyond the fact that, like, how many mices do you really have to hear to know that the Rebbe is unbelievable, and the Rebbe really exceeds our concepts of reality. Like, a week doesn't go by that we don't hear an incredible story about the Rebbe, where he opens up new vistas.
Agreed.
You know, and listen, I was, you know, when I first started to hear all these Rebbe stories about dollars in the war, George Washington Bridge, you know, and I remember for bringing to Montreal at the Montreal Tourist Center and hearing all these, you know, stories that seemed crazy at the time to me. And then, you know, you start to see that you yourself become one Rebbe story after another.
what's the story of George Washington Bridge?
There's no question. The
How about
question,
somebody lost their dollar and they got it back in change at the George Washington Bridge?
Heard that.
You heard that one? Just want to check if it was the same
There's no
story.
question. There's no question. There's amazing stories, but there's also people sitting in the middle of 770 who I'm standing right next to them, and they see the Rebbe and I don't. So either they're way holier than I am, or I'm just so blind.
Just have to open your eyes.
Or there's a third option too.
Or a third option.
This is probably more likely.
Too much.
Or you know,
There's guys who are pushing kids out of the way because there's someone standing in the Rebbe's path.
what I'm saying is that all the miracles
I've been told about
that
it.
people
it
experience
doesn't-
from
let
the
me tell you, it
Rebbe,
doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen?
we want it.
I never
Sometimes
saw
we
it.
want it
Sometimes
so
many
badly
times
to
I never
happen in every
I know
moment of
somebody was
every
pushed
day
away 'cause
that
it's blocking
people
the
start
He did it
believing
again.
that they see it
I don't know, push it. He was saying
at every minute of every day.
Cleared the way.
And
He
unfortunately,
said
it's
it
not
was
exactly
pushed
like that.
away.
The Rebbe was above
They're
the
standing in the
barriers,
Rebbe's way. It never happened.
but it doesn't mean that every
If they clear it, then
Joe
they're pushing
sees
it
him
too.
at every
It
moment.
depends.
I was
It
there,
depends
you were
really
there.
for who
I was
and what, you know.
I've heard more Michigan stories.
can't-
than
but-
that. Much worse.
I'm not saying that
Much worse.
they don't happen. I'm just saying that I was there many times.
I'm not trying to be negative. Yeah, I'm just saying.
I'll tell you, you know something? It's normal to be skeptical. But I'll tell you, if you know what, at a certain point, there's no room for skepticism.
To me, I'll tell you, to me, the Rebbe, stories that affect me about the Rebbe isn't all the miracles that everyone speaks. I heard a story from Rav Landau that he told me about his grandfather. His grandfather was the Rosh Bnei Brak. But even more so, he was very close to the Rebbe Rashab. He lived in his house. He was the Rav of Alacha in the Rebbe Rashab's house. So Rabbi Landa told me when the Frierdiker Rebbe told him to go to Israel to be the Rav of Bnei Brak, then the Rebbe came along and he started publishing all the books. So every time they published something from the Rebbe Rashab, one of the kuntresses or whatever, before it was published, the Rebbe would send a copy of from Kahat. He would send the copy first to Rabbi Landa in Israel. So one time he used to get people to get in touch. One time somebody got in touch and he found out that the Rav Landa didn't get it. So from then on, he wouldn't have any books go on the shelf before he actually got confirmation from him that he got it first, because he knew it was so close to him. So to me, that ultimate sensitivity is what's amazing about the Rebbe. I don't need to hear miracles. I don't need to hear all of this. Just the fact that there's a man that considered every corner, every place, feelings like, seriously, what's the difference? You're out there printing the Rebbe Rashab's books. That's amazing in itself. And he's worried about the one guy who was very close, also way Bnei Brak, that he should see it first. Because he knew they would speak they would find a way to speak, and Yaakov Landa would write him back letters about like what he felt and the stories, because there were certain, the famous Purim story when they came and they knocked on the door and he said that we ignore Amalek. They knocked on the door and they were having a Farbragen, and he said that the Rebbe went to the underground Farbragen, and they walked all the way to the Rebbe Rashab's room, and then they turned around, they didn't end up getting all the information.
I don't understand. By the Rebbe Rashab story?
Yes.
Tell the story.
Basically, they were having a Purim Farbragen.
The Rebbe
No, the Rebbe Rashab
was having it for
was having a Farbragen, and they were trying to enter.
Who's there?
The Russian police were trying to enter the house, and in his room he had notes down of every basically shiur that's going on in, I don't know, all of Russia, basically Chabad teaching. So they go knock on the door, they're trying to get in, and he sends Yaakov Landa to go answer the door, and he goes to the door, and he says it's whatever, KGB or whatever they called them at the time. I don't know what they called KGB at that time. Whatever it was called, the Russian
KVD or KGB?
the police.
PPU.
And he says, should I open the door? What should I do? He says, yeah, open the door. So he comes in, and they start looking around, and they just continue on. And they ask the Rebbe or Shabbos a couple of questions. They suddenly turn around and leave. An hour later, they come back. They knock on the door again. They come in, and everybody's getting nervous. And the Rebbe or Shab tells them, I don't know if it's in Yiddish or whatever country or whatever language he decides to tell. I'm assuming Yiddish, so the Russians wouldn't understand. He says it's Amalek, and when you're in the face of Amalek, you just have to totally shut it out. It doesn't exist. So they're looking around the apartment, whatever. They're about to go into his room where he has all the information. Suddenly, they just stop, turn around, and leave. So in one of the books, they write about that. So in that Farbragen, he said a certain mimer. So he said, Rabbi Landa said he remembers being at the house when he got a certain mimer, and he says the excitement on my grandfather's face. Like, he started telling me, I remember we were sitting. He's telling me what position the table he's sitting on. So it's like the actual excitement, the love of it. That's what gets to me. All the other stories, like, it doesn't mean as much to me. It's just seeing people excited, seeing like Amistic Jews. What else do you need? Why do you need to like jump over 8 bridges and walk on water? We don't need it. We have Torah.
You
never know what you're going to need.
By the Kinnis HaShluchim this past year, there was one of the classes that so teachers, we have our classes for the teachers shluchim that are there. So one of the people speaking, primarily the teachers, there were others there as well, other shluchim, but primarily the teachers, saying about raising Yiddish kids. So he's saying how we have to share with them. He said something very interesting. Well, this is American. This is in America, so he was dealing with American politics.
Right.
But the son of a Democrat is usually a Democrat. Son of a Republican is usually a Republican. And at least a staunch liberal over here, a staunch liberal will have a son who's a liberal as well, and same thing of a conservative. And the reason is because by the supper table at night, what's he talking about? Oh, this whatever is getting on my nerves, or the child sees that's his father's life, and it becomes his life. Of course, there are exceptions to that rule, but as a general rule, that's the way it works. Something that you're passionate about goes over to the next generation. His point was you have to be passionate about Judaism, passionate about who we are, and that goes over to them. That's what passes on. You can tell them anything you want from today to tomorrow, but one thing he said to reinforce that is reading these stories, the things that you were saying. Like memoirs and Purim. These stories that not necessarily miracle stories. It's just like a different plane of reality. This is their life. Their life was
exactly. That's right. It's amazing that sometimes you read about how a person lives his life or the stuff he thinks about.
Right.
I sometimes go in the Sikha and forget the topic of the Sikha. I'm sometimes just so overwhelmed. Like, how did the Rebbe put all this together? Like, he went from here to there. Like, how much Torah he knows and he learned. That's impressive to me. I don't need like
You don't need miracles.
What the finish is not that relevant.
Yeah, it's the way the person was. That's
I can distribute.
I don't.
But in Torah, we have miracles. We have the splitting of the sea. We have the 10
You have to
plagues.
realize
We
that
have a lot of
Rebbe-
miracles. Maybe we're connected by miracles.
We have a lot of miracles. We have the miracle of waking up every morning.
You have to
We don't need Kriyat Yam Suf. Just know you wake up every morning. It's a miracle.
You need the
I
sun.
understand.
Then that's a miracle.
The whole Kohanim side of the table over here. Levim are sitting opposite each other.
But you know, but the whole thing is that we have an opportunity to bring the koichas of the Rebbe to the world.
Let's go Shmuel Gedalia and Chaim.
Yes.
Yeah.
Spicy, not spicy.
Yeah, for sure.
Spicy l'chaim or regular l'chaim?
Just give him a look. He works with the system.
Shmuel Gedalia. Chaim, we'll talk to him.
You know, I was telling earlier.
What's the shout out to Chaim to pass the... You have to ask, yeah. Another guy. Okay?
You can't.
Well, you know...
You guys tell your wife that?
Commission.
There's a mensch, is
You have to ask permission.
For sure, he's moichel, but it's still not a shayla, it's halacha.
Now, lazy, we don't get any of that.
I visited my grandfather, my mother's father.
Mr. Shamsun.
I don't care, I'll pass whoever wants
Okay,
anything
fine.
after me, I'll do it.
Yeah,
Wait a minute. Ooh, so I'll have
See you
time.
calling from after calling.
when I was, I think, 10 years old,
Yeah,
my
we remember.
grandfather was dying, pretty much, and he was home, and he wasn't well. So my family went to visit him. He passed away a couple of weeks later or something. I went to visit him, and we were in his bedroom. And he's talking to my mother, to my father. I'm a 10-year-old kid, and I didn't really speak Yiddish at the time, and he's speaking all in Yiddish. But I'm there, and he hears somebody knocking at the door. He thought he heard somebody knocking at the door, so he asked me to go check who it was. So I go down to check who it was. There's no one there. Nothing. There was nobody I heard there was. I don't remember. I come back up to the bedroom, and my grandfather is screaming at my parents. He's all upset at them, and I wasn't sure what's going on. He got all upset at them soon after we left. That's what happened. They were upset that they didn't stop him from asking me to go down because he was Neshama Shekayim. I'm a Kohen. It's my grandfather on his deathbed.
Oh, it's your mother, it's your mother's
It's my mother's father, yes. He was all upset that my parents didn't stop him from
You
asking
realize
his
that
parents.
asked you to do something, wow.
I'm a kid, that's my grandfather, of course I'm gonna ask.
He really took it pretty serious.
But I can't say it's the way he was. He
Takes
passed
the
away a
job
couple of weeks
seriously.
later, and I was all 10
Maybe
years
they
old when
wanted
he
to
passed
say
away,
something when
so-
you weren't around, and that was a good excuse to.
This is a guy.
I didn't speak like that.
This is a guy waiting for the
Kohanim love
Mesa
these- they
I
love
learned
these
Yiddish
stories.
later in life. At that age, I
Kohanim love these stories.
You know what? Listen, it's a bit from a serious nefesh to be a coin for real. So you know what I'm saying?
Like
If
Levim.
somebody that's
Word.
that's shomer that particular avoid, you know,
What about a Levite?
we're only in waiting. We got it easy. We only hop in when it gets
We're
good.
here to serve. You know what they say when I told them, the Kohen has the mind of a demons.
What a coin went?
What is the Kohen?
Like the duchen.
Listen, the Kohen in Zin, what's he thinking about when he's duchening?
Yeah.
They shouldn't steal his shoes.
That's something tells me that's an old joke.
It's an old.
That's an old joke.
Person I had?
She was checking.
I'm saying, like, there is certain things that are.
Yeah.
not easy.
Yeah, all that shit.
Yeah, that was weird.
But why didn't you figure that out before?
I never asked those questions. It's the rabbi's fault.
Yeah.
He should have figured
He
it out.
should have figured
not
it out.
me.
No, for sure.
I should have asked
What a
those
shame, you know,
questions.
why
It's
work
not
everything
definitely
out?
not questions that I should
It
ask.
must have been devastating, like so different for both of you.
Oh, 100%.